Hi, thank you for joining. Today we are going to be taking a look at the enhanced tracking module in OneView. On our agenda, we have our tracking dashboard, going in and creating new tracking, managing tracking, rep and also reporting. As always, if you want to learn more about any of the features within OneView, feel free to join us during any of our live webinars, in which you can find on our Modio U page. You can also visit our support page to view any short videos or tip guides, as well as on that Modio U page, a full list of pre-recorded training videos at your disposal if you are looking to learn a little bit more about the platform. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So today, we're going to start with pretty much like the basic navigation and filters. Also, again, creating new tracking records and managing what is known as the work queue. So anytime you hit that tracking tab, you are probably hitting this several times a day, checking it several times a day because again, it is your work queue. It is designed to replace whatever spreadsheets or other tracking systems for credentialing your steps and workflows while helping eliminate any single points of failure by completing all workflows in just one central location. So let's start with the grid setup. All the functionality that we learned in V2 still remains and applies to this grid. So that will function no differently. So as always, that means that you can drag and drop and reorder these columns as you see fit. Do remember that this is something that is customizable from coordinator to coordinator. So if your view needs to be different than someone else on your team, then that allows for you to go in and set this up exactly as you see fit for what works best for you. Also, you have your advanced filter options, which we'll take a closer look at a little bit later. But we know with our drop downs, this allows us to check one or more of our boxes to go in and filter by. So things like type and subtype, priority level. For those that do not have that drop down filter, then we know those are our free type filters. So things like tracking ID, tracking name, owner, those are going to be those free type filters. Moving over to our actions column, we do have a couple of icons here. Before I dive into that, I'm actually here to locate the three dots menu, which you can find in this corner. Those are our additional filters that you'll be able to utilize. So starting off with things like which tracking is active or being able to filter by the status of them. Also by active or inactive providers, priority level of the tracking, you can also sort by here. And then also the tracking that is viewable on your dashboard, you're able to filter whether you're seeing everyone's or you just want to see your own, whether that be what's assigned to you or what you are the owner of. This next portion here, show report sharing. We're going to kind of get into this a little bit later, but if you have more than one team and you do any read-only sharing for those tracking events, this is going to allow you to filter by which other teams you may want to see where that tracking is being shared. We have the follow-up interval, alert interval. So that just says, hey, how many days do I want to look out to see what's coming up? You can go in and make any changes to this as far out as 2 weeks or date of. And then lastly, as always, we have our reporting at the grid level, which is a fun thing for tracking. This allows you to be able to see that dashboard by running those reports, allowing you to set those filters without having to really go into the full reporting module if you don't need to. So we'll take a look at that as well. Also, within this menu, you'll see this column icon that functions the same way. You'll go in and already see the default columns that have been added to this dashboard for you, but there are some additional ones that you may find here that may not automatically be selected for you. So you can go in if you would like to see those columns and just check those additional boxes. I am going to check some boxes here. And as you do that, you'll see your grid kind of shift around. That's just those columns coming in for you. Created by, created date. If you want to see, who those tracking events were created by and when they were created, those are some good columns to add as well. Follow-up dates, if you're going to be utilizing that add follow-up date button, which we'll take a look at in just a second. So make any needed changes, add or remove what is applicable to you, and what you're responsible for as it relates to tracking. And from there, I am just going to close that menu. I also wanted to make mention of inline editing within the grid as well. So that means if you're wanting to make a change to fields such as owner, assignee, or tags, you are able to double tap within that column. And now we can see that we can change here. So I can hit this drop down arrow. This is going to allow me to make a quick and easy change to the assignee. So if I wanted to assign that step to myself, or if I wanted to make a change to the owner, I can click there and same thing. With tags, if there are tags that have been previously created, you can go ahead and add those tags. If you wanted to create a new tag, you can go ahead and enter your tag there and just hit the enter button on your keyboard to create that tag. And now we can see all of those tags that live within that column. So before we take a closer look at the dashboard, let's actually start by creating tracking. There are two ways to do this. The first way is what we like to call more of the manual way of adding a tracking record to your dashboard. So I'm going to go to my add tracking button. You can use either the add tracking green button here. You can also utilize the green button next to the word actions here. Either way, it will take you to the same place. So I'm going to go ahead and click there. All right, perfect. So after we click add tracking, it's going to generate a blank tracking event. And now we can go in and start kind of filling out our required data points. Some of those things being owner, type and subtype, provider name. You'll see those red asterisks, which lets you know which fields are required. This is the same indicator that you see throughout the platform of required data points, and it functions the same way. So it is going to pre-populate the owner to the person that is opening that tracking record. If that should be someone else on your team other than you, feel free to make a change. You can click into this field and choose anyone else on your team. So if I wanted to choose maybe like Danessa, I can click her name, or anyone else on my team. For now, I'm just going to leave it as myself. And then we have our type and subtype. So every workflow has a set type and subtypes. The type is represented in bold. And then as you can see here in gray, that is going to be your subtype. So you want to go ahead and select whichever one you're looking to work from. For this example, I'll choose like payer initial. Maybe you're doing onboarding, whatever you need. Once you select that type and subtype, you will see your steps populate here on the right-hand side. We'll take a look at that in a moment. Next, you need to put in a provider name. So you can go in and choose your provider. You can type their name, NPI, whatever there. So because I've selected a payer record, I do have to go in and select a linked record. So I'm going to just go in and choose one here. And there we have it. So continuing on down, we have our start tracking. Now this auto populates to today. if you do not uncheck this box. So if I wanted to set this for a date in the future, maybe I'm creating it now, but I'm not going to start working on it till tomorrow or later in the week or maybe next week, I can uncheck this box. That will give me the option to do one of two things. One, select in this field and free type. I like to use the calendar just because it's easier. You can see the dates and you can click exactly what you're looking for. So if I want to say, hey, I'm going to be starting this on the 6th, I can go ahead and choose that date. And once you do, you'll see kind of some things shift around on the screen. The main thing is that estimated target due date. So that's that very next field. Now, this field is an optional one, and it estimates the due date, and this is one that that's usually the way that you'll use that most often, because it does take away from having to calculate that date on your own based on the amount of steps and the amount of days to complete each step. It can do that for you. So that's where that date comes in. I'm going to actually use current date. And again, we can see that date kind of shift around there. Next is priority level. By default, it's going to set to normal. If you want, you can choose one of the other three that are here, which would be low, high, or escalated. In this case, maybe I'm working on something that's lower priority. I can make my change there. We have our tracking name field. This is auto-populating based on our type and subtype. So that's this first part here. And then because this one is a payer, it does have that link record. So from there, it gives us the details of the payer and the location linked to that same payer. So all of that has been pre-populated to the tracking name for you. Now, this, as you can tell, is free type. So if you wanted to add additional, you know, key points or notes or words to that tracking name, feel free to do so. And then also we have the tracking description, not a required field, but again, if there are any additional things that you want to add when creating this, feel free to put it there. Next, we have tags. This does function like the other tag features within the system. This gives you additional sorting options, which we will be able to see on that dashboard with those advanced filter options. And then once you've worked in tracking for a while, you'll get a better feel of what your filtering needs are and if there are any additional tags needed or ones that need to be created. Maybe I will to go in and use the ones that we already have. In that case, I can just select from this list by checking that box. If I wanted to create new, I could start typing here. And once I hit enter, I've created my new tag. So now we see all of our tags. You can manage those by hitting that small gray X. This is something that you can do at any point. The next one is share as read only. Now, this is not going to be applicable to everyone, but if you have additional teams and on that team, you want those coordinators to be able to see the tracking, but not necessarily be able to update or make any changes, then that might be a good option for you. Let's move over to the right side of the screen. So these are the steps that are associated with this type and subtype that we've selected. So you can see the step number. You can also see the step name within just this quick view. If we wanted to look at the expanded view, there's a couple things that we can do. One, we can click this downward arrow to expand just that step, or we can hit expand all. I'm just going to click the one. So this is a more detailed view of what's going on with that step and what we might see as we go ahead and start this tracking. The first thing being, again, step number and step name. We then have the estimated start step on. Now, this is going to default to today's date, and the system is set to minimize needing to change that, but there is an option if that is needed. So for now, I'm just going to leave it. It's going to be also that same date here for me because I've selected start step on and use today's date. Both of these dates are the same for me. There's this auto start check. This just means when one step is completed, it will automatically start the following step. This is defaulted to be selected as on with that checkbox there. We also have until estimated step is complete, in which we have a certain amount of days as well as the date that goes along with. So when we open or when we were looking at this step, we can see that there is an estimate of 3 days to complete this step. So that is what this date, what this number is showing. Now, it will auto-populate, and that's according to your tracking template. But if absolutely necessary, you can make an adjustment. There's a plus here. You'll also see when you do that, it is not just adjusting these dates, but not just this date for the due date, but it also adjusts that estimated target date on the left-hand side of the field as well. So keep that in mind. With that being said, at the bottom of the screen, there is a checkbox that says auto shift estimated dates. So that is what is happening here when we go in and we make a change to the amount of days that that step is due in. You can uncheck that, which means no matter what change I make in this field, it will not affect my target due date. We then have the assignee field. It is going to pre-populate whoever is listed as the owner of the tracking. If there's someone else on your team that should be responsible for completing this step, this could be one person, this could be several people over the entire workflow. So if I'm responsible for taking care of steps 1 through 3, but Dinesh is responsible for taking care of steps 4 through 6, then I can go in and change to make, her the assignee of all of those that she is responsible for. The description, this is also pulling from your created or customized tracking template. This you would want to hold enough details to successfully complete the step as needed. Like let's say you have someone new coming in on your team and maybe they're not as familiar with the workflow. If that is the case, you may want to include a few more details, or if you have, lots of team members or whatever the case may be, just hold enough weight so that they know exactly what they must do to complete that step. We have the remove step option. Um, This one is more of a one-off. So this is used to only remove the current step that you see here. So but since I have step one expanded, I would be removing step one if I were to hit this. And what you can see there is it has closed that step and basically it is hidden. And that is what it will be when we go into start. That makes us now have a 6-step process instead of a 7. This may be a thing that you run into if, let's say, you're using onboarding and you have like MDs or RNs where the steps may differ slightly, however, not enough to have a completely different type and subtype. You can just remove those, and then it will not apply, or it will not show when you are working on that tracking. And as you may have already saw me hit a couple times, you have the option to go in and collapse this again by just hitting close. At the bottom, once you've either viewed or made any needed changes to your steps, then you can go ahead and either save as pending or start tracking. So in this case, I'm going to be hitting save. Um, but if you are working within here and maybe you're ready to go ahead and start tracking or you're very, very familiar with your setup and you're ready to go ahead and move forward, feel free to hit that green start tracking button. So I'm going to hit, let's see, save as pending. And now we have a little banner at the bottom of the screen. It says, "Hey, your new tracking has been added." It tells you the details, and it does give us the option to do two things. One, either close that banner or open detail view, which is going to open up in a new tab with a full screen of the tracking that you've just created. Now, because we did not start ours, it gives us the option to go ahead and start tracking. So feel free to hit that if need be. And then you can see the full details of everything that is related to this tracking event, including things like the tracking name, the provider, their title, and NPI right here. And then you, again, details. So status. Now it's moved from pending to in progress. Pending is the default until you go in and actually start that tracking. Again, tracking name, your start date, your due date, those things that we were able to see prior to hitting our start button there. Your provider, there's a little square arrow here. So if I were to click that, it does let us see the provider's profile in single provider view. That's in V2 as well. And then also the payer has one. So if I were to click open payer, it is gonna go right over to V1 because that is where payers lives and view that payer section. We have your priority level. This one you can still change even though we've started the tracking. You see your owner, you can make changes or add or re remove tags. And then we can see when it was created by and who it was created by. You still have the option to go and add a description, and then down below we have a full list of our steps. As we go through, we can either click the step here on the left-hand side and it'll change on the right, or you have the option to hit the step I'm sorry, where it says step number and details, and hit that drop down to see the remaining of those steps and their names. So if I'm working on step one, I can go in, make any needed changes, and complete my step. All of the icons still function the same way. So we have our email icon. This is going to allow you to send an email correspondence to either the coordinator, it will pre-populate the coordinator who is assigned to that step name and the send email to field, or if you're doing maybe like a proactive reach out to a provider, maybe you're working on onboarding or something of that nature, and you need to reach out directly to the provider, then you are able to put the provider's email and name here to send out an email if needed. That subject is a required field, and then you can go in and put your message as well. There is a little box here to check to exclude from notes. I'm not going to do that, but that is an option. And from there, I can go ahead and send my email. Now, it's going to populate here as a note because I did not check that box. And we can see the details of the email that was sent. So we can see who it was sent by. It will be date and time stamped, the subject and message, the provider, the name of the people that you've sent that to. So in this case, the provider and their email address. It also went to me, so it has my name and email address as well. You can add any additional notes by just clicking in this note field and going in and including any notes that would go along with this record that you would want to be able to look back on, report on any one-off things that you need to notate. Go ahead and add that to that notes field and go and click your green add button in the bottom right. And again, you'll see the most recent note populate on top. It will show my name, the date, and the time that I left this note, and exactly what it says. We also have our follow-up field here. So this is going to allow us to add a follow-up date. So let's just say, hey, we have until the 2nd, but for some reason I know maybe I'm going to be out of office for the next 2 days and it's just not going to be done by that time. I can add a new date in which I want this estimated due date to be. So I'm going to say, hey, instead of it being April 2nd, I'm going to need until the 6th, and then leave a note. I can put, coordinator out of office, and then I can add my follow-up. So it does show our follow-up date as the 6th, and that is in 5 days. This is business days, so do keep that in mind. It's going to be Monday through Friday. It actually tell you that if you hover over it here in that field. It also leaves it as a note, date and time stamp, the reason for your follow-up date and what that new date is. All right. So let's take a look at all of the quick start ways to create tracking. So as you spend time in the platform and you're navigating around, you've probably noticed some stars, and those stars are going to be your quick start ways to tracking. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to go to um, my V2 dashboard where I can see all of my grids, and I'm going to show you where those stars are located. So from here, if you choose your right click options where your provider is in the provider info tab, we have our profile card, and it lives in the profile card of V1 as well. If I scroll all the way down, we have our provider onboarding star, and then it says, hey, go to tracking. I can click there and it'll open me directly to that tracking event in my tracking dashboard there. Other places where you can locate a star are going to be grids like state license, DEA, state controlled, in which you can see that starred in the very right side of the actions column here. If we are in the work experience, there we go. So in our facility affiliations grid, there is a star there. And if we are in V1 within the provider's profile, the healthcare payer section, we can see a star there as well. So here is what that looks like. I'm going to see if I can find one where it has more than one variation of the star. I think this profile does. Perfect. So in the pairs, we see two stars. First, we have our empty stars, whether they be green or blue. That means that process has not started yet. So if you hover over it, it'll tell you, hey, this is initial and it's new. Versus we have a blue star that's initial and it is in progress. It is half shaded. And then we have our let's see, our green stars here. So when you are looking at your green star, if you hover over it, you will see that this one is a different subtype. So that is re-credentialing, and that's why that star is green instead of blue. So initial is the blue star, recred is the green star. Both have shaded, so if I were to click there, it will take us over in V2 to the related tracking event. Just to mention, when you're working with payers, you want to make sure that you have your locations linked to your payers. That is going to allow you to actually see and select those payers within your tracking type and subtype. If not, you will not see that payer within that drop down to do tracking when you are filling in that linked field. Perfect. All right, let's take a quick look at the dashboard itself. So the first column, again, we already talked about the fact that you can move these around and use those advanced filter options, but there are a couple of columns that may not be as self-explanatory that I want to go in and mention. The first one is the tracking ID. Every time you create a tracking record, it does create a new tracking ID. So this is helpful if you ever have to reach out to support, you have questions or something of that nature for that related tracking record. We will usually ask, hey, what is the tracking ID? So this gives you a quick and easy way to locate that ID number. Again, we have things like priority, type and subtype, tracking name, owner. Those are all filters that you can select. Report status. By default, like if I go, I'm gonna clear all filters. By default, when you're looking at this grid, it will automatically have two filters, which is only going to show pending and in progress. You can hit that small X there to clear that. This is going to allow you to see all of those statuses, or you can hit this drop down and filter to whatever you're looking for. So maybe you want to see all completed tracking records, then we can filter by completed. Or maybe we're looking for what we've archived. You can just select those filters there. I'm gonna keep those two. The one that says active auto selects both pending and in progress. So that's what I've done to reset that filter. We have our alert column, so we can see some of these have a little red bubble and it says overdue, which we can also see using the alert bubbles in the top as well. So you can filter by these. If I say, hey, I want to see what's overdue, and we can see that the follow-up in column for all of these are in the negative. So that is why they are saying overdue and they're pulling red. So that's when that happens. But we have some that are also approaching. So these are in like 1 to 3 days, and they have that orange bubble and they have that orange circle at the beginning of your grid here. Gonna clear that filter. So if you're going in and adding, or if there are the dates for, let me show you where that's pulling from. In this follow-up date here, you will be able to see the date that is associated with this number. So that is another way to filter by that. And you can see that within that full tracking record as well. Assignee who's responsible for that step, the provider name, your target due date. The next action shows you, hey, what is it that I should be working on when it comes to this tracking event? And then we have our tags here in which you can sort and filter by. We have source team and shared with. Again, we kind of already talked about with the read only. These relate to that read only tracking. So again, may not be applicable if you do not have more than one team, but if you do, these two columns may be helpful. So the source team tells us where that tracking lives, the original tracking event that was created, what team that lives on. Now, if that tracking is being shared as read only to a child team or an additional team, then you will see the name of that team that that tracking is being shared to or shared with. So here it is. We have this tracking, and I know I can find the original here on the Modio University team, which is the one that I'm in. But if I wanted to see this, I could also view it in this team. I want to show you what that read only view looks like. So if I go over and I right click, I can open preview read only. So it just gives me a taste of what my coordinators can see if they have a read-only version of this tracking. So with this, you can see they'll be able to see all of the details, however, not the option to make any changes. As you can see here, I cannot go in. Let's look at another one as well. Because that was only had one step. So if I'm looking at one and I can filter, I'm just going to drop this filter. This is okay, this is a good one. So if I'm looking at this one, I can see all of the associated steps with this process. I can click through them. If any notes have been left, I can read those, but I can't go in and make any changes, even if that tracking is still in progress. If you have full access to that tracking, you have the option to, from here, exit preview, and I can click there, and that'll allow me to go in and start making those changes. Okay, perfect. So, let's clear that filter as well. And then in the beginning, if you can remember, I also added the created by and created date columns, which allows us to see who created the tracking and on what date did they do so. Over within the actions column, again, if you hover over this exclamation, it will give you a list of those icons and tell you what they are and how to use them. This first one is that email icon. It does function the same way as it does when we saw it within that full tracking record. You have your edit. This will open a detailed view of that tracking for you. So that same page. It does open in a new tab, so that's nice. You don't lose your dashboard if you're wanting to see both. We then have our side panel. So if I click here, this is going to allow me to, one, see an overview of the tracking. So I can work from here without having to open up that full detailed page. I can see this, all of the same details here. This is one that's pending, so it gives me the option to go ahead and start. If I wanted to, I'm going to get one that is in progress. Perfect. So if I hit my side panel, I can see what progress has been made. So just a quick overview. We have our a list of our steps. I can see which ones have been completed. Maybe I'm looking at this and I need to go in and make a change. I can go in and add a note, or I can see step details. This allows me to view a specific step. So if I click here, I'm going to do it one more time. I can change the step that I'm looking at. So if I'm saying, hey, and this is one of those miscellaneous ones that only has one step, let's go to the next one. So this one has 7 steps. So if I say, hey, I actually want to work on step 2, I can hit this drop down, change, and then go in and add my date, which I would put today as my start date. I'm just going to use my date shortcut, T and tab there, so it automatically entered today's date. And then we have our estimated due date, and then you can add our completed date. Now, this is one where it should have been started a long time ago. That's why that date is in the past, but I can go ahead and say, hey, I'm actually going to complete this today. If I need to, I can, again, from here, add any follow-up dates or leave any notes. If there are being notes that are left, I'm gonna find one that has notes here. And this is also really nice as well. Like I can quickly go down the list of those that are in progress, and I can just check the progress or quickly work on what's assigned to me without even having to go in and out of that side panel or completely in and out of that full detail view. So I found one here that has notes. So I can click on the little bubble icon and it will show me all of the notes that have been left. It does tell which step they fall under. So like step 1, and then here we, see our step, our note for that step. I'm going to close the side panel by using my X. We have our flag. This allows you to go in and say, hey, now this is of top priority. You can see that it has turned red. If you hit that flag again, it does give you the option to change the priority level back. So that's okay to do. I'm going to go ahead and change that back to normal. And then the last icon here is that archive. And again, if you wanted to see archive, and I'm going to filter to that because it has some different menu options there under the action column. So we have our green plus to restore. You can still see the tracking, which is nice to be able to, even though it's been archived, you can see any progress that was made or any notes that were left. And then that red trash can to hard delete. We are going to just take a quick look there. There are some tracking reports. So if you click, we will get a reporting in a new tab. And I am going to just click here on the side where we can see our tracking reports. This will just give me a list of only the tracking reports. And there are a couple listed here. So I just want to talk about what exactly they are. So we have Philly, let's see. Perfect. So we have affiliations and payer or affiliation payers tracking notes. So this one includes additional facility notes, most recent notes added only that you'll be able to see. And if you're looking at the payers with tracking, this includes all recent payer tracking notes and for in progress tracking and all payers from the entire team for that in progress tracking as well. So really nice if you are wanting to get a quick view of those again payer notes with that with those tracking details. That's a good report to run. Tracking all items. This does show every status, so whether they are pending, in progress, complete, or archived, you'll be able to see those. And this one is really nice to have if you're wanting to get like an overall view of really what's going on within tracking. So it does break them out by step. So if that workflow has 7 steps, then it will show 7 times on the report with all of those steps and all of the details. This is helpful if you're wanting to see like things that are overdue or you're wanting to make adjustment to like completion times. You can go in and run that report for that reason and many more. We have tracking notes. This does show the most recent notes left on each tracking record. If that record does not have notes, you can expect to find that on this report. And then we have tracking open items. So this is going to be the same basically as the all items. However, it is only going to show anything that is pending or in progress. Perfect. I'm gonna close that. There's a couple just things that I want to mention, just kind of quick tips and tricks and things for navigating in your dashboard. Some of those are right click options. So I've kind of used this a couple times before, but I just want to slow down and show what's there. So we have add, which is going to be another way to either green plus or add tracking, just a third way. Open single provider view. We did use this option a little bit earlier, so we were able to see for the provider for this tracking that we created for their profile and single provider view in B2. Open detail page, open related record, open provider in prior version, which will just take you over to V1. Preview read only, which we did do, and then clear all filters, which I'll hit now. And it's just going to reset my grid to what it would be if I had set no filters to begin with. There's a couple of things that we can see over here. So let's say I've filtered by, I'm going to change my filters. I like using this when I'm doing archive. Let's say I have a couple that are archived. Let's see if I have any in my own name. I think I've already removed those. Let's do. Okay, perfect. So let's say I have a couple that I have archived that maybe I want to go in and remove. I can check both of these, right click and say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and delete both of these. And that'll give me the option to bulk remove or bulk delete. If I'm clear the filter and I'm not looking at ones that are archived, like we have these three here. If I right click, then it does give you the option to open a detailed page or open related record where all of these will open in an individual tab for you to go through and look at that detailed page. There's also some copy functions at the bottom. So copy with header, copy selected rows, and copy selected rows with headers. So let's say you wanted to make a quick copy of the 3 rows that we've selected and drop that into an Excel sheet really quickly. Then that's a nice feature to have as well. And then the very last thing that I wanted to go back and mention, if you are working, I'm gonna say in progress, if you're working on a step, or you're working on a workflow, and let's see here, um, let's see. You're working on a workflow that you've maybe previously completed. I'm going to show. Okay, perfect. Maybe previously completed that step and put in your complete date. I'm going to show just using this example. So I'm going to add my date and I'm going to put my date in as today's date. And then as you can see, it closes that and I can move on to my um, next step. Or if I need to make a change to the date, I can click here. So I'm gonna choose that. I'm gonna go ahead and complete step. And if you want to leave a note as you're closing, feel free to do so. Complete step. And then it auto opened up step 3. I'm gonna go to step back to step 2. So previously I put in today's date, but I may need to make a change. And as long as the tracking is still open, then I am able to go in and change the completed date field. So that's a big win. If you were a previous user of tracking, then you know that once you hit complete step and you put that date in, it would lock that field and you couldn't make a change. So you can go back again as long as that tracking record is still open in that in progress status. You can make a change to the completed date. When you do it, it does let you know, hey, changing the date is going to impact the turnaround time. And then you can go in and change the date to whatever it needs to be. So maybe I need to put yesterday's date and then leave a note. I'll just put a little test here and update, and it's gonna leave a note that says, "Hey, the completed date was changed on this day by this person," and then it shows a date and timestamp. All right, perfect. So that is everything that I wanted to cover as far as tracking. Hopefully, you have learned something helpful within this training. Again, feel free to visit our support page to review any additional tip guides or short videos that may go along with using the tracking feature.